Good morning. Welcome to Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with producer Alden Iowani. And what we've done the last couple of weeks is we're getting opinions throughout the state. We first had Las Cruces head boys basketball coach Will Benjamin on. Then last week we had Las Lunas head football coach Jeremy Maupin on. This week our very special guest is West Las Vegas athletic director Richard Tripp, my very good friend, also the longest tenured play-by-play broadcaster here at ProView Networks, voice of New Mexico Highlands. Rich, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Ed, thanks for having me on, man. You mentioned some interesting people before you came on. I got to tell you, some real classy people you've had on your show, man. So props.
You know, Rich, I think one of the things is, you know, we're living in some uncharted waters, right? On times that are crazy. Through a global pandemic, the last global pandemic was 1917, 1918. You know, you and I weren't around for this one. Or the last one. We probably, hopefully, won't be around for the next one if there is one. So, you know, the pandemic has touched every corner of American life. It's touched every part of the globe, and certainly has affected sports in the state of New Mexico. Now, Rich, before we go on and talk about that, I want to ask you again. You were named West Las Vegas athletic director, I believe, in May of this past year. Was it May of 2020?
It was in July, early July.
And talk about that, because you had a stint to talk about your first stint as West Las Vegas athletic director. And it's important for everybody. You know, you're a very, very good friend. You and I talk when we can about at least once a week. But I always call you King of the North. King, you know, you're deep in Las Vegas. You're very proud of your community. You know, you're Don through and through. You've taught there at West Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. You coached there. You went to high school there. As much as I love Highland High, my alma mater, you have a deep love for West Las Vegas. So talk about your first stint as the athletic director there. You've also coached and taught there. But talk about your first stint as West Las Vegas athletic director.
Yeah, you're right. I taught for 30 years at West and coached for 30 years. Was out of retirement for a while. In about 2012, I got a phone call saying the superintendent at the time, Gene Parsons, said, "Hey, man, can you come on in? I need to talk to you about something." And I thought he was going to ask me to come back and teach. And I was just going to flat out tell him, no, he said, "How would you like to be the athletic director?" And I just kind of like I was in shock. Me? But anyway, yeah, I took the job at that time, and one of the things that they said, the reason we need you here is because we want you to reinstate the pride, the Don pride, the Caballero pride, and so I did it for 4 years. We had a lot of success, a lot of good things, happen athletically, and my thing coming in at that time has always been kids first. We're gonna do everything we can to make sure that the kids have the best possible experience they can in athletics, both on and off the field. So I was at it for about 4 years. Like I said, we got a lot accomplished. And then about my fourth year, it was a rough year. It was my last year there. I lost my mother, I lost my mother-in-law. My son became ill. There's a lot of, you know, family things. So I decided to step down. And it's like the day I stepped down, Craig Snow from Highlands calls me and says, "Hey, man, how'd you like to be the voice of Highlands University?" So I said, "Sure." I miss broadcasting. I was doing some work. I was always for ProView. So yeah, then I stayed out for a couple of years, and I got the call again. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to come back. I wasn't sure at all. In fact, I even said no about 3 or 4 times. But like you said earlier, Ed, your alma mater. When it's in your heart, it's in your heart. Whether it's Highland, whether it's West, Robertson, name it. So after some deep, deep thought, I had to really soul search and figure, do I really want to do this again? And I looked at it as an opportunity to come back and accomplish and finish some things that I didn't get to do the first time. And great things, we're doing some great things, and I'm glad I'm going to be part of it. So all in all, the first 4 years were great, but I think this 10 years is going to be, even better. So from July, and then of course the pandemic hit. I know we'll talk about that, but when it comes to your alma mater, and I'm a big historian, and I'm all about history and tradition and the past and all this and that. So I decided to give it another shot, and so far I'm glad I did, man. I'm glad I came back.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm sure that they're very happy to have you back there. But talk a little bit about it now. We don't know as of this time. It's November, and they're saying sports may start in January. We all hope so. Talk about a little bit about you. You talked to me about this about 2 months ago about some of the challenges of scheduling some of the activities and of different teams because of the sports are all moved to the spring. Normally they have their time. Football's in the fall. Basketball starts in winter. Volleyball's in the fall. Now all the sports have been moved to the winter time. So talk a little bit about the challenges of the schedules that you've had to make up and the things that you might have to consider if things change. Talk a little bit about that.
It's interesting. Yesterday, Sally Marcus called and we stayed talking for a while. And she goes, "Man, of all times for you to come back," and we kind of got a big old laugh about it. And we started talking about those types of things. And you're right. The scheduling, the first thing you got to do with your schedules is make sure, of course, your district games are covered. But now where do you put everybody else? Football was reduced to 7 games, basketball 20. You're trying to squeeze in as much as you can. You're trying to find dates. It was difficult at first because the second the NMA said, go ahead and start scheduling, and I think I told you this, we were on a Zoom meeting with the NMAA, and the minute Sally said, "Okay, guys, so you can start your scheduling," it's like rapid texting. You could see the text messages, just flowing. "Hey, man, can we get this day? Hey, man, can we play this date?" It almost became a dog-eat-dog world because us, for example, we were limited to 125, 130-mile radius. So we had to drop teams like Socorro and things like this, or can you meet us halfway? So all those factors came into play right away. So, our great community around here, us, Mora, Pecos, Santa Rosa, of course, Robertson, we all got together and kind of like we're all going to play each other. So that helped, so it was a lot of moving parts at the time. You had to squeeze it. You had to condense it. You're playing at that time 3 to 4 volleyball games a week, where normally you play 2. Basketball, the same thing. You're playing 3 games a week instead of 2 or 1. So, it became kind of like, I hate to use the word, but dog eat dog. You had to take what you can get, and you had to take it as fast as you could. So that was when things were scheduled to start in the fall with volleyball and that. Of course, now it just flipped upside down, and now it's more difficult. But yeah, you're right. It was, man, just anything you could get your hands on at the time, you grabbed it.
Quite a lot of challenges. Now, I talked to both Will Benjamin and Jeremy Maupin about the challenges of online learning. You taught at West Las Vegas for 30 years. You know all about that. But I want to ask you this too. One of the things that kind of a couple of interesting stories that you told me. One of them was the community wants to have hope. I think the state wants to have hope. The nation wants to have hope. We heard maybe possibly about a possible vaccine from Pfizer yesterday, which is 90% effective. And I think that gives people reason to hope. Of course, we have to talk about the distribution later, things like that, all the logistics, but that does give people hope. But there was a cheerleader that came up to you, I think, as you exited a shop out there in Las Vegas, and kind of was asking you like, well, because you're the athletic director, right? They want to know, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Talk a little bit about that conversation, because I'll tell you, Rich, when you mentioned that to me, that really it pulled in my heart, because we can't forget cheerleaders and all the work that they put in, because it's a lot.
Well, our cheer group, we're very proud of them. 6 blue trophies sit in our trophy case because of our cheerleaders. We're very proud of them. But yeah, my favorite donut shop here, Daylight Donuts, I drive up and my favorite cinnamon roll, and she comes to the table, to the window, and just, Tripp, what can we do? I mean, we want to cheer, we want to get out there, we want to fundraise, we want to do all these things. And I just looked at her, I said, I'm sorry, we're trying, it's like we told them, basically the virus is in control of what the decisions have to be made. Her eyes were even getting to the point where they were getting glassy. And I just told her, I'm sorry, we're doing everything we can. The governor's doing what you can. The NMA is doing what they can. And she goes, but it's so hard. We're having our Zoom meetings, but it's so hard because we want to compete. We want to cheer. We want to be out there. So, I just looked at her and I just thought, I'm sorry. So when I went back the second time, she comes to again and she goes, any changes? Have there been any changes? Can Mr. Gutierrez, who's our superintendent, can he do anything? I said, no. We, basically our hands are tied. She goes, well, can't we do anything at all? And I said, not really. So it's sad when these kids come up to you, like you said, Ed, and they're expressing their feelings. They're expressing how they feel. And like, I have talked again, sure, we want to see the kids out there. We want to see the kids, the cheerleaders, the dance team, and I think if I could, Ed, just for a quick second,
yeah, of course,
is this, yes, we as athletic directors, as coaches, we want our athletes to compete, of course. Our superintendent, Mr. Chris Gutierrez, has done an excellent job, has stated from day one, my job is to make sure everyone stays safe. And he's done a very good job of that. But we cannot forget the student body as a whole. We can't forget our band. We can't forget our chess club. We can't forget our student council. We can't forget everybody. So that's what we mean when we say this. Yes, this poor cheerleader came to me, but we want to see everybody come back, everyone competing. Esports, chess club, name it, so
everybody succeed, everybody, and that's the thing, right? Because you're athletic director, and I think you and I talked about this. There were so many teachers. I just talked to my former high school coach, Glenn Lucero, at Highland yesterday. Glenn Lucero, the former Albuquerque High great guard, and I thought about the influence he had on me. But we were talking about the biology teacher that he was, and I had a biology teacher that was in effect. There's so many history teacher that affected my life. So it's more than just athletics. Rich, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with West Las Vegas Athletic Director Richard Tripp on the sports desk after these messages.
I'll just get a little closer.
Oh, instead it's a gorgeous pass. Just shoot it.
He's going to go all the way.
He's going to fire at the buzzer, and he hits.
Great pass, Hadbury, and thank you very much. Tie in the district. Inside, fly, Eagle.
Uses some athleticism, and then Morris down low, able to finish. You called it, Steve, in 10 seconds, and look at this, stripped, stolen Watson. Christian Lucero beats the buzzer. Here's Ian Chavez, the sharpshooter. Got it.
Could have said that any better. He answered the question.
On got another steal one at the buzzer. Back to back for Chavez.
Medina from the volleyball lines. Medina wants another one from deep. Oh, he wants 10. Give him 10!
Lewis
finds Watson. He's going to finish. One-handed slam. Vista, but just all the different scenarios we can see potentially play out ahead of the state tournament.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
Ah!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk Live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with producer Alden Iowani. He always does a great job for us. Our special guest today is West Las Vegas Athletic Director Richard Tripp, my very good friend. Rich, again, thanks so much for being with us.
You know, it's cool, man. Hey, shout out to Alden, Jason, Josh, the crew there at ProView, man. My dogs, they do a great job, Ed.
Yeah,
man,
they do. Yeah, you know what? We got the best crew in the business. There's no doubt about it. And I think people need to remember the guys behind the scenes. Without them, things don't happen, right? You and I have had extensive, I've been to ProView 8 years. I believe you've been 13, 14 years. So you really know how hard they work. You know, Rich, I want to go back to the effect of the pandemic. And again, it's touched every part of the globe, but in Las Vegas, right? Talk about a little bit about, and there's another story that I wanted to get to. A parent came up to you of a player and was talking to you about, she's torn, right? She says, look, I want my son to play, but I also don't want anybody to get sick and die. So that's where a lot of people are, right? Now, you and I, again, are advocates of sports. I was lucky to play. You played, coached. I reffed. We love it, right? In a large way, it's a big part of our life. But we're also the part is safe, right? We don't want anyone getting sick or possibly passing away, and that's the reality. People might get mad about it. That's just the truth. So talk a little bit about the effect on the community in Las Vegas.
Well, you know, surprisingly, people that know Vegas, we're a population about 14, 15,000, you know, and of course, it's actually, believe it or not, every day we see these cases coming up in Las Vegas or San Miguel County. And for us being a small town, if we get 5 a day, I mean, that's a lot. 3 a day is a lot, you know, so it's affected our community in a way that, you know, I'm very proud of our community. I think for the most part, the people here are doing a great job. But, you know, something, you know, we kind of say, well, how can you say that if the numbers keep going up? Well, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I mean, I don't, you know, whatever it is. But it's affected this community in big ways. Now, to my knowledge, we haven't lost anyone. All of them have recovered. But I've talked to, because it's impacted us a little bit at the school, and I can't go into detail about it, but it has. And you feel for the people. That's the thing about this community. When you live in a community of this size, people right away, who has it? Who has it? And then word kind of leaks out, and you find out little things, and so you feel bad, So it impacts this community in a lot of ways. People often say, "Oh, you're Vegas, you're Robertson, you're West, this and that." Well, that's only on Friday nights.
Right.
The rest of the time, when someone gets it, or two people, or three people, or four people, people kind of rally. They put their differences aside and they kind of rally. And so it's impacted us pretty bad up here, man.
I think as we mentioned, it's impacted the communities everywhere, right? In New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
in the United States, it's touched every part of our lives, unfortunately. The other thing I want to ask you, Rich, is NMOT. You and Dr. Manny Lucero are in charge of running that site on Facebook. It's a site really for positivity, right? You announce athletes signing with other schools, accomplishments, things like that. And I go to NMOT a lot and find out a lot of news that I don't know about sometimes. And I think you and Dr. Lucero, Manny Lucero, who again former play-by-play broadcaster for ProView Networks, another outstanding man. You guys do a great job in running that. But recently, when things again with this COVID, it started becoming a little bit more political. And I think there was times you had to kind of shut conversations down. And look, you're not trying to be a censor at all. But to explain a little bit about the challenges that you and Dr. Lucero have in running NMOT.
Well, NMOT, we started it back in 2007, as we've been down that road before. But yeah, when all this first happened with the governor shutting everything down, the NMA not playing, then the protests started happening. People were posting things on our site, and like you said, Ed, is that NMOT is designed for positivity. It's designed to share positive news. Like today, it's National Signing Day. We want to see everybody that's being signed. We give props to officials. We give props to coaches. We give props. That's what it's all about. But when this hit and people started bashing the governor, people were bashing the NMAA, people were fighting, and I told you this, we actually had a situation where two people were actually having an argument about the protest, only to find out they lived down the street from each other.
Right.
And so people were, excuse me for saying it, they're going a little nuts. And so we don't use NMOT as a political platform. We never have. Whatever your political preferences are, amen. But we don't want, all we ask the people to do is this. Whatever your difference is with the governor, put it on your own page. Whatever your difference is with the NMA, put it on your own page. But don't bring it here. So we got accused of censorship. Like Manny had said in our interview with the New Mexican, it's a private site, so we can censor anybody we want. We want positivity. That's all we're asking for. And when we got the warning from Facebook saying, look, basically they said, look, either you start controlling it or we're going to control it and we're going to shut you down. Facebook jail, as they call it. So we got that announcement, we put it up, and we even had people saying, well, show it to me, prove it. We're like, dude, we don't have to show it. If you can't take our word for it, then you can leave. So it became a political platform, and we had to start deleting people, had to start censoring people, had to start blocking things, and that's not the intent of NMOT. We want to be that positive side of high school athletics more than anything else. So yeah, it became a challenge for about a week, man. I mean, God bless everybody who's a fan of NMOT, but please, we ask, keep it positive. That's all we ask.
Rich, I think it's important that you get that message out there because NMOT was always known for that, right? The positivity. I mean, I go back and I've read that for 3 or 4 years now. And it's to celebrate athletes and their success and where they're going. And I loved it that you gave a shout out to some officials. I officiated high school basketball for 22 years. And, the officials in all sports, soccer, volleyball, basketball, football, they deserve as much love, swimming, track and field. The officials, believe me, they deserve as much shout out as you gave them. And I sure was proud to see some pictures of some basketball officials, and you give shout outs to all officials, because without them, there's no game, right? We understand that. But I think it's a site for respect, right? It's a site to cite people's accomplishments and positivity.
Right.
And I think the message is quite clear. If you haven't made it clear already on NMOT, you're doing it here on the Sports Test today. It's like, if you got some positivity, you're all about it. The negativity, take that to your own page.
Yeah. And going back to your officials really quick, really quick, is this. My father-in-law was an official in Santa Fe for 25 years, whatever, but it goes beyond that with me, because I was one of those coaches that I was a little out there. It took me a long time to kind of come down to earth, and you got to understand this too, that you being a former official, they're going through this too. Officials are going through the same thing the coaches are going through. One official said, I think it was Hugo Sanchez, Hugo very well. Yeah. Hugo said, I miss getting booed. I mean, so, even officials are being affected by this. Going back, I know we're kind of changing gears, but going back, and as we say, it's all connected. Anybody associated with sports, this has an impact on. And pretty much anybody, period. Whether it's the NFL, NBA, high school, college, whatever it is. I mean, clock operators, bookkeepers, down marker people, name it. Across the board, everyone's affected by this.
It's funny you mentioned officials, because I was just thinking about that. And normally about this time of year, and I've been out for 8 years now, but you start preparing for the season. You get your uniform, you get your whistles ready, right? You start getting in shape. And I swear you're absolutely right about that. The officials, believe me, look forward to as much Friday night action for football officials, volleyball officials. You look forward to that contest, that game. And a lot of officials, again, it subsidizes their income, right? These tournaments that they get to officiate in. You might be out there at the Los Lunas tournament, at the Melo Otero tournament when they had it, the Academy tournament. Man, some of the best basketball in the state, right? I got to officiate 4 state tournaments. I never forgot that. So I think you're absolutely right. The officials and everybody, teachers, administrators, everybody's having to deal with this. And some, and there's no wrong or right answer. Some people are going to say that this is the way I feel. I read on NMOT, one lady said, hey, my athletes or my kids should have the decision to play if they want to play. And I read that and I said, that's true. But we don't know if they're asymptomatic. We don't know, right? We don't know enough. Right. Are they going to give it to a game official, to an administrator? And again, a lot of people say this too, Rich. This is important to note. I understand it's 98%, but even that 98% with 2% chance, to me, is too much. That's me. And I get that people would say you're negative, you don't want the kids to play. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. That's just me. And again, other people have different opinions, but I think we all want to hope for positivity, right? That's why your site NMOT is so important. And again, you remember, Rich, I think it needs to be also remembered that you and Dr. Lucero combined education years might equal, 60 years together as far as educating kids? I think that needs to be remembered as well.
Well, I'm going to bring up this point along the lines you're saying, talking about the parent earlier. I had a parent come up to me a few months ago, and she said, what do you think? And I, of course, we don't know, whatever. She said, my son's a senior, plays basketball and baseball. This is the year that you live for. This is the year he lives for. And she said, there's nothing more I would love to see my son play his senior year of baseball, because he didn't get the chance last year. But she says, I'd rather have my son alive, and I'd rather see my grandchildren than my son play his senior year. And as a mother, to tell you that, you're going, wow, thank you. Because yes, for as badly, and her son too, as badly as they would love to get that opportunity again, it comes back to that. Like you said, we're not saying we don't want to see the kids out there, but for this mother to say, I'd rather see my grandchildren. I'd rather see my son succeed in life than to have this moment. That was big, Ed. when
I know. I
that
don't think
mom
you
told me
forget
that was
Yeah.
no.
Rich, we got about 1 minute left, and I want to end the program with some fun here. Your Los Angeles Dodgers, after 32 years, they finally win a World Series. Tell me what it meant to you as a fan. I mean, you're a lifetime fan, like I'm a fan of the Dallas Cowboys for 50 years, fan of the Los Angeles Lakers for 48 years. Talk about what it meant for you to finally see your Los Angeles Dodgers win the World Series.
Well, we won't talk about our Cowboys because that's a whole different.
We'll leave that for another show.
but yeah, I mean, since 1988, I mean, I saw the one in 81, Fernando, in 88, the Gibson home run, and now this after the last two against the Red Sox and the Astros, and I was just sitting here in the chair I'm sitting in now, and I'll tell you, it hit. I know people say it hit them in different ways, but it was pretty emotional, actually. I didn't think I would I'm not going to say I cried like a baby. I'm just saying it was emotional because how close they had come. I thought about my father-in-law right away, who was a Dodger fan as well. He's no longer with us. And just the emotion. And then you see the players, the things they had to go through. I mean, it's not easy to be away from their families in the bubble. But yeah,
Rich, we're going to have to wrap it up, but Richard Tripp, I sure appreciate you being our guest this week on the Sports Desk. We'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Go Dons, baby.
For producer Alden Niawani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next Tuesday on the Sports Desk. Rich, good.
Let's get a little closer.
Oh, instead it's a gorgeous pass.
Here's what
he'll just shoot it.
He's going to go all the way.
He's going to fire at the buzzer, and he hits.
Great pass, Hadbury, and thank you very much. Tie in the district. Inside, fly, Eagle.
Chavez uses some athleticism. And then Morris down low, able to finish. You called it, Steve, in 10 seconds. And look at this, stripped, stolen Watson. Christian Lucero beats the buzzer.